Welcome back to the Savage Sullivan Math website. Today we're going to take a look at single term multiplication of radicals. So when I look at this one, I read it as -9 radical 45, which algebraically means -9 times radical 45. So we're going to first just work with the radical 45. So when I break this down, just as we've seen before, we're going to break it down by pulling out the biggest perfect square factor, which is 9, or radical 9 here. So that breaks down as radical 9 times radical 5. This -9 is going to come along for the ride. So we're just going to carry it down here, remembering that this is really multiplication. So now we're going to look at this and we're going to ask ourselves, what can I simplify? Well, I know that radical 9 is really 3. Not radical 3, just the whole number 3. When I look at radical 5, there are no perfect square factors that will go into that. So we're going to leave it as radical 5. So the question is, what happens to this -9? Well, like anything in algebra, when two things are stuck together like this, it means multiplication. So this -9 is going to come down and get multiplied by the outside number, that coefficient on the radical, just the 3 here. So this final answer is -27 radical 5. Now when I go to check my work, I'm always going to take a look at that radical and I'm going to say, can I simplify this? Nope, no perfect square factors of 5, so we are done.
Thanks, Mrs. Savage. You did a great job. Here's another example. You have 20 radical 490. Remember, this is the same thing as saying 20 times radical 490. So the trick that we have to follow is, of course, simplifying this radical 490. Oh boy, I'm having a hard time thinking what perfect square might go into this. So I'm just gonna, I know that radical 2 will go into 490. I know it will go into it 245 times. So I'm going to just break this up this way, because 2 times 245 is 490. I know that 5 can go into 245 49 times. And I know that 7 can go into 49 times. 7 times. So here we go. We've got a 20 on the outside. Remember, just like Mrs. Savage said, this is going to come along for the ride. But then the square root of 490 breaks down into radical 2 times radical 5 times radical 7 times radical 7. All right. You can double check your work. If you multiply 2 times 5 times 7 times 7, you get 490. So you know that you broke that number down correctly. Now, as I am looking at these radicals, I see a pair of 7s. Pairs to squares. So we know this is the same thing as saying the square root of 7 squared. And what do we know about square roots and squares again? They cancel out. So out of this green bubble is going to come a plain old 7 that we can multiply with the 20. Don't forget you've got this radical 2 and the radical 5 as well. So now you just need to go ahead and do that multiplication. 20 times 7 is 140. Radical 2 times radical 5 is radical 10. We cannot reduce 10 any further, so this is our final answer. 140 radical 10. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe.